So I will do that. So welcome everyone. This is a call to orient the 9 folks who have signed up from our 5 innovation cohort schools who've signed up to be coaches on the EA roadmap. So we really appreciate you all signing up and agreeing to do so. It's an essential service, if you will, of the roadmap, of having people like yourselves who have experience with the material on the platform with people who are new to the material to support them in making their way forward. And we also hope that the material continues to be useful for you as well. A lot of it is your practitioner tested guidance and what you've taught us about how to develop an integrated EA program on your campus, but we're also hoping it continues to be useful for you. And so we want to provide all of you an orientation to what it means to be a coach. And as Carl has already alluded to, what's the functionality? How do I make my way through this thing so I can see where people are asking questions? And also surface any insights or ideas that you have about how we can support you in that role. And so maybe just by way of starting with, we've got Kay and Carl and Christine live with us. Let's just do a quick check-in, and it would be great to hear from the 3 of you, sort of what motivated you or compelled you to become a coach on this EA roadmap. So whoever wants to start can start, and we'll just go from there.
Well, Monica sounded like she really needed people. So I was trying to honor that and to be helpful. Mm-hmm. And so happy to try to share some knowledge with others as this gets going.
Great, thanks, Kay.
This is Christine. I've been traveling because people have been inviting me to their campuses to talk about faculty engagement in basic needs in security and emergency aid. And so, while I may not be helpful with financial aid, and I can talk about how do you engage faculty, and I thought that was a unique role that might be helpful. And I think Deirdre was thinking about that as well as thinking about equity.
Great.
And I think for me, it was one part continuing to learn. And so even though you're coaching and you're giving advice, it'll be interesting how other people are tackling some of the challenges and issues that we're facing in their systems. And so that was a pretty big component of it.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. So maybe just to orient all of you just to why Ian and Jess and I are on this call in terms of our roles as well. And so you know how and to reach out to us and why. So I think most of you are familiar or know that I've been leading the learning and evaluation part of the Emergency Aid Lab since the beginning, largely to contribute to how we develop the content and the overall structure of the EA roadmap. So I'm continuing to oversee and lead the development of the roadmap and its different phases of release and all the behind the scenes sort of coordinating of that. Jess, do you want to introduce your role?
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's nice to hear your voices and see your faces, or your one face, Carl. Yeah, so my role for this phase of roadmap development will be facilitation. So you'll see my name pop up a lot as I'm like responding to any questions that people have on the platform and kind of informing you facilitators of questions that our users might have that might be relevant to your experience. And so we'll talk more about how that will look later in the call.
Thanks, Jess. Ian?
And hi, everyone. My function on this is going to be looking at the structure that you're working in. So the curator platform and not to get too far into the weeds, but then RISE, which is how some of the modules are built. That's the program that uses that. My focus is really on how do those structures and the way that it's being used help both you and the other users be able to engage with content well, so that it's applicable, so that it's usable for you. Yeah, so that's my main focus, looking at sort of how structure can help set you free.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, So before I start sharing the screen and launch into just a high-level orientation to the roadmap, we wanted to restate, as I think we've said in a few emails, that the roadmap and what we released on October 15th is very much a 0.8 or beta version. So this is our version of the kind of prototyping that we've been encouraging all of you to be doing over the last year and a half or so, and putting something out into the world probably long before we're comfortable with it or ready for it, but knowing that that's the best way to improve it and make it better and get feedback before we build out an entire solution and then have it fail on day one. So this is a 0.8 version that you as 9 coaches on the platform have access to, and which 6 other campuses have access to. So it's still a relatively small crowd that we are starting with, and there'll be additional phases that we can talk about later in the call in terms of more and more people having access to the roadmap and being able to use it on their campuses. So we just wanted to say that in the spirit of, we know that there's going to be technical glitches, there may be copy edit mistakes, there may be all kinds of those kinds of things, and we want that feedback. We want you not to feel like you have to be careful about our feelings. Please break our feelings and break the platform so that we can make it better. And yeah, in the spirit of learning together. So I'm going to just, for those of you who are with us by Zoom video link, you'll see here the landing page of the roadmap. And so as Ian mentioned, we're working on something that's called Curator, which is the platform, but all you really need to know is it's the digital social learning platform essentially, but it links, the link that we've provided you for signing on will take you directly once you sign into this landing page. And so we've developed about a 4.5-minute video that explains the roadmap. And so we encourage you to watch that if you haven't already. And then there's some links for finding all of the tools and resources that we've developed. Any roadmap updates that we make, they'll be noted here, and frequently asked questions about the roadmap. So it's some of the communications material about what is this and why has it been developed. And if you need support to need to post questions, there's a sort of direct way to do this. But then there's also this most important link, in my opinion, which is that takes you directly into the emergency aid roadmap. So in many ways, the roadmap is built like an e-learning course. So if you were taking a course through distance, let's say, this might be one of the platforms that is used. And the way that it is, the high-level structure, the way that it's designed is there's an orientation. There's another orientation here, video that you can see Jackie has recorded. And then we take you into this beta version of the roadmap, which are 5 different modules at the moment, or milestones. The first 2 are what we are currently calling prerequisites or preparation. So this is an orientation to the structure of the design action cycle, what it is, and how we've been using it, and how we encourage teams to be using the design action cycle. So you can see it when I clicked into the design action cycle overview milestone or module. There's a short introduction as to what this is, and there are 4 separate modules to go through. So if you think about a module like a lecture, an in-person lecture, what are we learning within this lecture? This is what we're asking people to learn. So in some cases, as you go into this particular module, you'll get, in this case, it's an overview of the design action cycle. And we ask people to watch this video. So you can scroll through and see what the course is trying to teach. And then the video that we want people to watch is here. And as you can see, this is a key part of, excuse me, the social learning, excuse me, platform, where we're asking people to, make comments, ask questions, yeah, this is where a lot of the coaching will happen. So for example, back to your question, Carl, this person from Alamo College in Texas, she asked, so we talk about one of the principles of the design action cycle being progress over perfection. And she asks about, well, how does that actually work in the real life setting of a school? Well, how do you do that? So I offered a response, but this is a place where all of your experience of actually doing the work on campus and actually having to develop protocols and procedures. How do you develop a protocol and procedure in a progress over perfection kind of way versus an elaborate planning kind of way? So you see that, Carl, or like these questions are appearing and you could click reply here and respond to Kiana?
Yes, I see it now. I guess the default setting is not to view all comments, so I just clicked on the view all comments there, and it opened up all the comments.
Right. And so I'll turn things over to Ian shortly, he'll be able to guide you in terms of exactly how to pinpoint the exact comment and not have to sift through everything. But just by way of example, that this was our hope in this choice of using this platform of Curator and having this social learning element, is that people from anywhere could comment on any of the material, and their peers on other campuses or yourselves as coaches would be able to respond to those questions. And because it's right on the platform, it means everybody can see the answers, and the wisdom that you're sharing doesn't get hidden by email, just to the people on that email, but it's accessible by everybody. So in this case, this module is relatively short. It's just a quick read and then watching this video, which is an overview of what we've learned from all of you about how the design action cycle actually works. And most modules also have a handout that can be downloaded, so that teams who may be working together in a room could watch the video together, but there's also individual handouts or reading that folks can have access to. So that's the design action cycle. Where you see these little red dots, that means that there's a comment there. So that's another way of noticing what's going on, is if there's any comments, this little red dot will show up and you'll know to click in there. And as Christine alluded to, some things you may really want to focus on, like the faculty engagement piece. And if you feel like you've got insights to share or coaching to offer from across these different modules, then feel free to respond anywhere. So we've created some practitioner tested guidance around the design action cycle. We've also created practitioner tested guidance around what we've learned from all of you about how to be a high performing team. So everything Jess brought into the work and encouraged us to learn how to do around team and project management, which includes using a shared filing system and making sure you have regular meetings and that you're doing check-ins with one another. So all of those kinds of skills and capacities and learning how to do that is recorded here. And then there's some work we've created around how your team assesses the strengths and the assets you've currently got from which to do the work. We teach some Rios tools and approaches, the 4 ways of talking and listening. And there's places where teams can share their insights. And so after doing the 4 ways of talking and listening as an activity amongst their team, there's a place here where they can see that, oh, we've got some questions about what does that look like for you, and they can add to the discussion here on the side. And there's also places where folks can upload in what work they're creating. And so creating breakthrough moments isn't something we explicitly did with all of you in the innovation cohort schools, but it's basically the idea of how do you decide what kind of culture you want to create within your team for how you'll work in your most creative and generative experimental way. And so when we ask folks to upload their material, they've got a choice for how they do that. If they've got either a phone or a computer with a webcam system like all of you have, they could just record themselves and shoot a 30-second summary of their work and upload it. They can upload a document, they can provide a web link. So there's a few different ways that teams can share their work. And this is another place where we would invite you to be watching what's happening and what's being posted so that you can offer your coaching and your insights on what they're developing. So I know the UW system learned a lot about collaboration across different campuses that have different student populations. And so any nudges or teachings around how that might be useful in what you learned there. So again, these icons sort of indicate where are we asking for people to have what's a module where they're learning something, what's a module where we're asking them to have a conversation out in front of everybody, and where are we asking them to share or upload the work that they've been doing. And then finally, so that was the preparation parts of the EA roadmap. And then what we've released in the beta version is the first 3 milestones for getting started with your emergency aid program on campus. If you remember at the Santa Fe meeting where we did all that prototyping in that room together, and we asked people to move a bunch of cards around of tell us what is the journey of the emergency aid roadmap. This is in large part a reflection of that. That there's a first stage of really making sure that your team has a shared understanding of the key definitions and principles of emergency aid. There's a piece of work of securing leadership support so that they sign off and give full authority for your teams to do their work. And then the next piece of work is convening your emergency aid roadmap team. And there'll be other modules, and those are being developed now and will be released a little bit down the road. But just for example, clicking into the leadership module, what you'll see here is with this icon, this is a video. So this is an introductory 2 or 3 minute video of what you'll find in this module. So we encourage people to watch those. And then the module, what we've learned as we were developing the content, and much we think at least aligned with your experience, is that much of the work of the emergency aid lab was informed by what's the next meeting coming up and what work do we need to do to get ourselves ready for that meeting. And so in that case, what we've done is we've created template meeting agendas for what we think are the key milestones and the key meetings that your emergency aid roadmap team is going to need to have. And so these are detailed in this module. And then everything that comes after it are modules to help you get ready for this meeting. So they're linked in a way or in a relationship with each other. So when you click on meeting with senior leaders, what comes up is the content and the agenda of that meeting. So you can see here it says meeting agenda, and it's the check-in, everything you guys are familiar with, and the reviewing of the agenda, setting the context and presenting the pitch deck. And so there's a module that helps you prepare the pitch deck to for your leadership, and even the draft MOU or charge letter that many of you we know needed to sign. And so you can download the agenda as well, so you can customize it for your context and then sending you off on your way. And so the making the case for effective emergency aid is all the guidance needed for creating the pitch deck, and here's the module for using the charge letter. So just a window a little bit behind the scenes of our thinking, which was these modules are successfully accomplished by moving through a set of meetings. And so we provide the meeting template, an agenda, and then modules for how to successfully run that meeting. So I'll pause there and head back to this page with the course outline here and just see about any questions about the platform itself and or any of the content that we've developed.
Will the modules have an average time to complete at any point in time? Because I found myself when I went through one, not really clear how long it would take you.
That's a great question. And the short answer is I don't know yet, but my sense is that yes, that's probably a good thing. And one of the things that Jess and Ian and I are doing every week for the next several months is noting all of these questions that are being asked by yourselves, by the campuses, or even by us as we watch people use the platform, so that we can begin to be more explicit about that. And so if you have any guidance on this shouldn't take you more than 2 hours, or this shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes, that's helpful. And in addition, the other thing we're trying to learn, Carl, is what percentage of time should people be spending on the platform itself, and what percentage of time should people be out in the world applying the material on the platform. And we don't know yet what best practices in this kind of blended learning environment, but yeah, we'll have a way of kind of tracking the data and see what we have a way of knowing what people are up to when they're on the platform, but we need to figure out a way to learn and gain insights from what's happening when people are offline. So welcome any thoughts on that and on what the right ratio of time is. Any questions, Christine or Kay, from what you've seen so far?
Not so far. My questions will be more about, I was wondering, I know people go in and comment, and we're supposed to help respond to the comments. Is there going to be a way that we know if comments are there, or how often to go in and check?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that, that's a great segue over to Ian, who's really digging into the technical back end of the platform. Over to you, Ian.
Thanks a lot. Brenna, will you be going through the profile stuff, or do you want me to do that as well?
Why don't you? Happy to have you do that. Yeah.
Okay, then you're gonna. You'll do that. Great. So just to like at a very simple thing around the profile. So as Brenna is doing right now, this isn't the best laid out, but if you hit that the little pencil there on the right-hand side, that brings up all the information so that you can put in all of your information. I highly recommend adding in a picture, just because it's nice when people see that, especially on the learning platform, sort of little icon. And even if it's not a picture of you, some sort of icon or image that sort of you'd like to represent you. The other thing we're asking everyone to do who's the peer coaches is you'll see on the right-hand side here, there's these notification settings. By default, the last setting, exclude me from the leaderboard, is not checked. And so we'd ask you to check that, because that has to do with the gamification aspect of the platform, where it collects points when you go through things. And we think it's better of all of us to maybe in on it more, or we take ourselves out of that leaderboard calculation.
And just to say, Ian, so I went to the top right-hand part of the platform and clicked near my icon, and that's how I got to view your profile, and that's where you can make all these adjustments. Yes.
And this is also where if you want to reset your password, you can do that there and put in the other sort of information that's about yourself. So that's great. Just want to make sure that everyone sees that, and especially like we'd highly recommend just putting in a picture of some sort and excluding yourself from the leaderboard on this. On the other end, from what you were just asking about, Kay, and I think this is something the three of us were talking about today. Right now, I'm trying to find out within the curated platform how we can best notify people when there are comments being made. Jess is going to be the facilitator online and the sort of the main point person on that. So she's going to be able to see when comments come up, as Brenda did last week, to sort of note, this would be good if we had someone speaking to it. I've been going through the website already, looking for how that can be done, whether there's any sort of tagging system or a way to just send emails from it. And I haven't found anything yet, but I've got notes into the people at Curator at HT2 Labs, and I'm going to be part of a webinar tomorrow to learn a little bit more about it. So once I've got that information, I'll make sure that we pass that on directly to you, and we start using that, because I think this is one of the things we see is being essential to making sure that we make good use of your time, is being able to direct you towards the questions and the parts of the website or the parts of the platform where people are needing your help specifically.
So I guess, Ian, the short answer at the moment is to Kay is no. At the moment, we don't have an obvious way or known way to us to ping you about specific questions. And so at least for the next, couple of days, we'd request if you've got the time to sort of scan for where those red dots are and just see if there's any coaching or guidance that you can provide. And we'll get back to you as soon as we have a better answer for how to better direct where your coaching is offered.
Yes. And the other thing I'd say is that if there's anything you notice, like Carla, it was interesting to hear from you that when you went on, the default was not for all comments. So if there's things like that you're seeing as a peer coach on the platform, if you can let us know about them, because we may be able to do a simple fix that lets you see all of that so that you're not having to go in and change things. And then also knowing if that is where the fix has to be, sort of like Brenna was just saying, you'll have to look for the red dots. It's better that we let you know about that and we share that with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any things that are getting in the way of you supporting as a peer coach, let us know. Send us an email.
Yep.
I think that's all that I had, unless there was other questions other people had, or Brenda, if there's anything else you wanted me to speak to right now.
At the moment, no. Did that bring up any other questions from our coaches?
This is Christine. One of the things that I just have a question about is I went in there and looked around, but what if the coaches have questions? Who should we email about our questions as we're starting to navigate this?
So you can, if you're on the homepage here, the landing page, Christine, of the roadmap, there's a support box here. And you can email those, and those are going to Jess.
Oh, okay. So we wouldn't get in the middle of, if we had our particular questions, by using that support.
Nope, not at all.
Great, thank you.
And related to that, please, get in the way, use up as much of our time as you can. In the spirit of the beta testing, and we want to provide you and the new campuses with concierge support. So we're here almost 24/7 to be in a way. It's, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about our own sort of request and response process that all of you developed so beautifully in the emergency aid lab, that if you have a question, you just ping us and we'll figure out on the back end who needs to respond and how.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or observations about the platform or about your role as coaches? Okay, great. So just to give you a sense of where we're at. So we're about, 2 weeks today into the beta testing. There's going to be a midpoint check-in November 15th for the 6 campuses that are using the platform. Do you all have a gut feel about how useful it would be to have you on that call, or not? I'm just wondering, as I was talking about it, it just came to me that it might be helpful to have you on there, but I'm not entirely sure.
It might be nice to know what they may be expecting from their coaches, and I'm not sure if that'll come up, or just listening into some of the questions and things that come up.
Right.
I could see it being helpful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. So I'll put that into your calendars, and if you guys can make it, that's great. And if not, we understand there's lots of stuff on the go. So we'll definitely invite you to be a part of it if you're able to. So we have that call with the schools, the new schools, in a couple of weeks. We're formally running the beta testing process until December 14th, which is that Friday in middle of December. So we'd invite and welcome and hope for your coaching participation until December the 14th. And then while all of this is happening, one of the reasons we chose to use this platform was because of how much data it can collect on how the platform is being used and what material is being used and what's being passed over. And so we are doing we have a workshop in the middle of January with the folks who've been helping us develop this platform, so that we can learn about how to synthesize and make sense of that data. We'll be using the rest of the winter to make changes to the beta version of the roadmap, as well as developing the new content that will be released on March 4th. So there'll be a version 1, we're calling this behind the scenes version 0.8. We'll have a version 1.0 that's being released March 4th, and a phased approach. There'll also be a little bit of new content early April. We'll do another round of testing with more schools. And then the complete version of the roadmap, at least for this phase of the work, will be released in late May. And we'll be running it and facilitating it for at least a year. And we're working, as you may have heard from Mike and Monica and a few others, that we're working on what the next phase of the Emergency Aid Lab would look like from June and beyond, including growing the platform and having more schools on it and supporting other schools in developing their EA programs through the platform. So we'll definitely keep you posted on what that looks like. But for now, it's this experimenting phase until the middle of December, and continuing to build out the additional content into the spring of next year. Yeah, so I think that's where we're at. This is our version of prototyping. It's been fun, and we're really quite appreciative and grateful that you've all signed up in this coaching role. It means a lot to us. So I don't know if there's any other updates I've forgotten, Ian or Jess, or if that sounds right.
Just quick thing. So everyone should have access to all of the modules. So if you're having trouble accessing any of the milestones for whatever reason, please let us know. Because I know previously some of them were locked, but they should be unlocked now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Okay, well, this is just another notch in your belts of leading the development of the emergency aid field. So thanks again for your contribution. And as we said, if you have any questions, anything doesn't make sense, feel free to just click this support button, and Jess will be on the other end of that email, and one of us will respond to that note.
Great. This was really helpful. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks. Okay, great. I'm glad it was helpful. And we will speak to y'all soon.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.